Morning in Europe, good afternoon in Asia, and welcome to the audience wherever you are. My name is Isabel Habrecht, and I am the head of the Northeast and Central Asia Division at Untitled Foundation in Munich. And you are listening to our Talking Asia Politics series, which we organized together with the South and Southeast Asia Division in the Department for International Cooperation. Under the heading Talking Asia Politics, we discuss political and social developments in Asia. We point out risks and opportunities for the countries and consider the consequences for Europe. In our analysis, we always consider opinions from within the region as well as abroad, and we focus on a constructive dialogue along different points of view to coexist. In 2020, the coronavirus spread rapidly around our very interconnected world, and quickly almost every country reported cases. However, although the virus caused the same disease in every country, there were vast differences in how each country reacted, in which countermeasures were taken, in how the virus spread through society, and very likely also in what the long-term consequences are. Therefore, we decided to take an in-depth look at the situation of 8 different countries in Asia. We have asked experts who have followed the spread and the consequences of COVID-19 to analyze success and failure of different strategies and to point out short, medium, and long-term consequences of the virus in the region. The result of these analyses is our series Asia Fighting COVID-19. After today, we will have one final online seminar in September where our author presents his insights on the consequences of the pandemic for Asia-Europe relations. Additionally, each expert has written a paper which will be available for download on our website soon. In the second half of this year, we will have a special publication where all 9 contributions will be combined. So today we take a closer look at South Korea. And before we start, I have some technical information for you. At the low end of your screen, you see a Q&A box. Here you can ask any question concerning South Korea during the pandemic, and our speaker will answer them during the next hour. So please don't hesitate to ask anything that you would like to know. If you encounter technical issues, you can also use the chat function and let us know, and our organization team behind the scene will help you with the troubleshooting. And finally, we are recording today's seminar and it will be published on our website later on. So I'm very happy to introduce today's speaker to you. Ms. Eunyoung Lee is partner at Excolo, a Singapore-based international development consulting firm, which is a partner of the Coalition of Epidemic Preparedness Innovation. And before joining Excolo, she worked as the representative East Asia at ICDDRB, the leading international organization for infectious disease in Asia, and served as the external relation coordinator at the International Vaccine Institute, the UN-affiliated international organization headquartered in Seoul. Ms. Lee also served as pro bono director and advisor for the Green Tree International, a non-profit organization supporting vulnerable people in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK, to enhance the quality of life for the disabled and the children. She has followed the spread of COVID-19 in her country very closely, and I'm looking forward to hearing her assessment of the consequences South Korea is facing right now. With this, I would like to hand over to you, Elle. Please tell us which challenges pose COVID-19 to South Korea and what are the mid- and long-term consequences according to your assessment.
Thank you very much, Isabel. Hello, everyone. Good morning in Europe. Good evening in Asia. My name is Eunyoung Lee, partner at Excolo. It's my great pleasure to have an opportunity to introduce Korea's fight against COVID-19. Many of my foreign colleagues and friends talked about South Korea's containment of COVID-19. Still, COVID-19 is not an easy hurdle for Korea and all of us. I would like to share the experience as a member of its society. I'm not presenting this presentation as representing the Korean government's position because I'm only a member of society, and I'm sure that people has a different perspective. As a member of a society, I will share my thoughts with my 40 years of global health field experience. I hope this sharing can contribute for other countries to see the pros and cons and and become more prepared and then able to tackle the COVID-19, which is ongoing for everyone of us, and also the possible future epidemics. I will share the screen. Hope everyone can see this. Okay, let me go over the slides so it will be easier for everyone to follow. Sorry. Okay, actually, I would like to share the screen together with my notes, but I think it's not really functional. Okay, I think I have a little technical problem.
We were just able to see the presentation.
So. Can you see that? Okay, let me share it again. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, if you press play now, then we can see it.
Yes, but I'm not able to see my notes. That's the problem.
Okay. You can also do it like that. I mean, we can see the slides, but we see your whole screen.
Okay, wait a second. Okay, I'll just go for this. Okay, this is the title of this the presentation is Prepare Up to a Point. This is a Korean traditional palace, and you can see the Seoul, the city Seoul there. And it's very peaceful, but actually we are also in fight with COVID-19. As you can see, the location of Korea, the beginning of the outbreak, when China had to suffer with the Wuhan, where the epidemic started, South Korea's location is very close. It's not very far. It's literally one of the closest neighbor country, and it's not really sharing the border. But China is Korea's biggest trade partner. Because of the proximity to China and population density in urban cities in Korea, and also Korean government made the decision to leave the borders open. So we will keep receiving the tourists from China, and all these businessmen were going back and forth to China and Korea when the Wuhan outbreak hit in Asia. And also there was a lack of strict lockdown. Korea still, until up to date, we never faced a complete lockdown. And as you can see, the reason that I choose the United Kingdom and to compare the case with Korea is not because I don't like UK. I love UK, but the problem is that both are very isolated country, because Korea is not an island, but we have a very special neighbor in the upper part, so we are not able to travel freely. So Korea is actually like geologically pretty much like an island. So we're pretty much isolated as UK, and the population is 51 million. Of course, UK is a little bit more than us. But if you see the situation of the circumstance, compared to its population, the Korea had much less confirmed cases than UK, and the number of deaths is actually much less than other parts of the world. So when you see these numbers, people are asking, how could Korea contain the COVID-19 so well? But there is it's not only that Korea is doing well as a government policy, but not also the thing is Korea had a special experience. And I would like to share that point. This is a graph between graph for South Korea and the UK. If you see the curves, the Korea is, hope you can see my arrow. Actually, the Korea is the blue one. You can see that the number never really went up very high. Not really, just 1,000, little bit above 1,000 cases a day is the highest. Actually, the Korea is now having a very harsh time, and we have about like 1,600 and sometimes 1,700. That's like the largest number that we ever met. Then how South Korea is fighting against COVID-19? That's everyone's question. This is the Korean President Moon. And as you can see, the Korean general public, except this little gentleman here, everyone is wearing masks. And this is not because of government policy, but people are voluntarily wearing this mask. And it's more like a cultural, and the COVID-19 is unlike other diseases, pretty much depending on your cultural background, and then interaction with government. It all matters. It's not because of who's doing well or not doing well. This is more like very much like a historical and cultural disease that we ever experienced before. Okay, containing COVID-19, lesson from the past. I would like to talk about the one of the harsh outbreak that Korea had just 5 years ago. People really worried about it, and I was really doubting about Korea's capability of dealing with the MERS. Actually, Korean society has already, had a very traumatized memories of Middle East respiratory syndrome called MERS outbreak in 2015. It's not very long ago. It was very brutal, and we remember it was never had this kind of respiratory disease hitting the country before. So it was people were full of fear, and you literally cannot see the people in the street. So what I mean is Korea is pretty much like already immune with the infectious disease outbreak. And but unlike COVID-19, the MERS was it's actually the same as like a respiratory disease, but if you know how to deal with it, you can contain it pretty well. And Korea have responded cleverly toward the new disease, COVID-19. Through the experience of MERS, Korea is pretty much like vaccinated with the MERS, I would say, because they kind of learned how to respond to the unknown infectious disease that has no vaccine and no treatment. MERS has no vaccine and no customized treatment either. So, of course, we had a loss of lives, and it was very tragic. But with this MERS epidemic, Korean society were much well prepared than other countries, because we remember the epidemic not very long ago. And this is the South Korean government's response system. It was actually established through the MERS epidemic, and because of the MERS was it was a harsh the moment that we ever experienced. So we have a special force and a control tower to deal with the outbreak itself. So, and this time they have empowered the Prime Minister, and they are having a daily meeting and they have established the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasure Headquarters, and they identify the problems, and they're making an efficient decision for everyday matter, because you don't know what will happen or how the society responds. You have no idea. So everyday monitoring is very necessary, and the cooperation between the ministry is very necessary too. And the Korean Center for Disease Control is taking a big part of it and sharing the information with the general public every day. Briefing available on the website and the news, and all these relevant ministries and organizations are working together. Otherwise, if you don't hear the clear message from your control tower, it's very easy to lose the trust from your government. If you don't trust your government, you don't follow their instruction. And if the people don't follow the instruction, it's very, very hard to control. And also the containment of infectious disease we have experienced, because Korea was very wishy-washy when the MERS hit Korea. We just never seen this kind of disease before. So Korean people were very stressed, and they just don't know who to follow. It was a very harsh moment, but we already have experienced not too long ago. So Korea people reacted differently. So this time, the Korean government set up a strategy based on 3 T's: test, trace, treat. And the test means that Korea had, because of the MERS epidemic, Korea was able to have a policy for the emergency use approval of the diagnostic kits. So many of Korean bio companies, especially for the focusing on the for those diagnostic technology companies, they applied their product as an EUA use, the emergency use approval. So Korea was able to have many testing devices in the very early stage for COVID-19. It happened with because of the MERS epidemic. They have set up this special program. They learned from US. And this program was already running, so these companies were able to apply for the emergency the use approval. Otherwise, it could have taken a long time for getting the government approval for the Korean FDA. It literally takes more than a year, or at least 6 months, because of it's very you have to go through all this the steps, and it's no difference in Korea. So, but because of this emergency use approval law and emergency approval policy, these diagnostic devices were able to come out early. And Korea is very strong at IT, the technology. So they have set up the program for tracing the people. So of course, the people have to agree on sharing their personal information to the government agencies and also for the related organizations. They have to allow, they're giving that information to the government authority to let them trace you. This is a little bit very, sounds not very natural for European mind, probably, because the sharing the personal information It's not an easy decision, but Korean people kind of chose to let government trace them because the control for containment of infectious disease, it's more important for their lives, because they have experienced how the infectious disease will affect their lives. So they kind of chose to share their very precious personal information, but they kind of trade it with their freedom. And also the treat, this is a kind of special part of Korea, because of Korea has a very well-established national insurance system. So treatment wasn't a big worry for the general public. They were able to access the good medical facility without worrying about for financial problems. That was very helpful for people to access. And also the treat, the other good thing for Korea is they have made a special program for separating the treatment center and the regular the hospital matters. So, for example, like emergency, you can't go to the emergency right away. If you are the COVID-19 confirmed cases, they separate you. They put you into the special clinic to get the treatment, so you don't get mixed up with the other patients. And this is a very good lesson, and it was a very harsh lesson for the Koreans because the first MERS epidemic case happened in the emergency room of Korea's very famous Samsung Hospital. So to not repeat this mistake, Korea have made the separate clinic just focusing on the COVID-19, so the patients don't mix up. So this is a very necessary to avoid the medical system collapse. So test early and quick was the kind of method that Korean used. As you can see in this photo, this is a drive-through diagnostic center. So the person who would like to get tested doesn't have to come up from the car. So it would be limited contact, and it was a very efficient way, and it was adopted to United States later for testing. And also that they have made this special screening center. So doctors are using these gloves and do the test and collecting the swab from the patient, but they don't get touched, and you don't have a direct contact with a possible confirmed case person. And so this is the front view. So this is like a step. This is the first step you do, and the second one, third one, fourth one. So this is like the first one don't get mixed with the second one, and the second one don't get mixed with the third one. Because when they call you by number, you only go to the designated booth. And this is the trace part. The QR code. If you have a no QR code in your phone, you're not able to eat in the restaurant, because most of the restaurant require you to do the QR check-in for the restaurant. If you refuse to, then you have no chance to eat. And the Korean people are willing to give information and to enjoy the food. And for the facility for like gym, you also need a QR code. And this is a gym that you have to check in with a QR code. And to go to the pharmacy, you have to have some distance, and you need a QR code to go inside of any building. So, and this is actually a lot for the mask. It was quite problematic for the beginning, because Korea people wanted to secure and purchase the mask as much as possible because they are not sure that when this pandemic will end. And the Korean government had to make a special restriction for buying masks, like it's only allowed few pieces for, and it's not anymore, but before it was only like you can't buy more than 2 and kind of thing. They limited the number to control the equal distribution and the trade. And as I slightly mentioned, National Health Insurance System, the NHIS, that covers more than 50 million South Korean people. The National Health Insurance covers 97.1% of the population, and the remaining 2.9% are supported by the medical aid program. So literally all are covered. Even like foreigners who have a residency in Korea will get the benefit out of it. And this NHIS covers most cases of COVID-19, even the PCR test and treatment, and the patient can access health facility without medical bill stress. It was a big thing, so people don't hesitate to go to the treatment center. And patients with COVID-19 are supported by the NHIS, and which is funded by the central government, and also the state government, local governments have a budget to support it. So this is literally a tax money supporting the people. The characteristic of these strategies, I would say it's early and quick, strong and coordinated, and it's technology driven and balanced. The reason I mentioned early and quick is how they implemented the testing device and the center in very early stage, and the government was trying to do as much as they can to making coordination well. And then there was a government intercepting the market, like limiting the purchase kind of thing, but those were kind of necessary evil. And technology was a big part in Korea because tracing program is quite excellent, and literally they can track you where you move. Because as long as you are using the phone, the government can trace you. And this is one of the programs that developed in the MERS epidemic, and they're still using it. And balanced means Korea was never locked down until now. Never experienced the complete lockdown. Of course, the school were not open for a few months. But with a wearing mask, even kindergartens are open, and nursery homes are open as well. And social distancing and people's behavior, these are the things that I would like to talk about, because this is not even government has a wonderful plan. If people don't follow, it's very hard to implement their policy. But cooperation of the general public was the kind of a big part of success in containing this COVID-19 in Korea. This, the events seen as a high risk, including the protests and mass gathering, concerts, stadium games. Those were prohibited in early stage. It's allowed, but still in very careful manner. And there was a big complaint about a prohibition of protests, because it can seen as the government is pressuring the general public for general public's freedom of speech. And but however, the mass gathering can make this COVID-19 outbreak worse. It's kind of proven. So that part was prohibited because we didn't know what is the real factor of the COVID-19, and until they figure out wearing masks is very critical. People were not sure where the pathogen is actually transmitting. But however, Korea was never locked down. The closing hours for the restaurants and cafes were also restricted, but it's not. There is the limitation for the opening hours, but you still can do the business, and they now are doing limiting the number of people. That affects the business, of course. And for the wedding, like those wedding venues in Korea, is quite a big business, and it's not working as before. And as you can see, it's quite sad. This wedding photo, as you can see, everyone is wearing masks. It's not very memorable photo, but this is very COVID-19 wedding. And as you can see, even a little children are wearing masks. And in Korea, if you go to streets, it's not because the government is forcing you to wear the mask, but people are literally like to wear the mask to protect themselves. And even for the Buddhist temple, this is a big event of Buddha's birthday in April. It's quite a big event for the Buddhists, but they are still wearing masks. And subway, of course, public transportation, if you don't have a mask, you can't get in. And the working from home, it was recommended for the companies, but it's not, the government is not forcing the companies to do that. And as I mentioned, bars and restaurants were never fully closed. The number of people allowed together was still restricted, but it's not fully prohibited. So this is making the society less fatigued on COVID-19, because when I hear things from my European colleagues, and they were complaining about not able to eat out and not able to meet people, this is making life very gloomy, but it never happened in Korea. In fact, supporting COVID-19 measure, I would like to mention about something interesting. Actually the well-established national health system was one of the very helpful factors to overcome the COVID-19, and the rapid implementation of 3 key strategies that I talked about. And the public health awareness through the past outbreak, this is a big thing, because I would like to say that Korean society is already vaccinated with MERS, because people know how to fight with the unknown infectious disease. People kind of realize how to respond toward the outbreak without treatment, without vaccine. So the MERS was a disaster for Koreans, and we have many lives were lost through that. But still, it was a big lesson. We paid a very high price on that, but it was worth to learn through the MERS. And now the people, that's why the people's behavior was very cooperative to its government, because they already have seen what can be going on. And the no resistance for wearing face mask. This is also a big thing for really become a positive factor for supporting COVID-19 the measure. These, as you can see in the photo in the bottom, these are the K-pop stars. Korean K-pop stars love to wear masks because they want to be hide from the public eye and to have trying to have to hide themselves a little bit. And this is kind of seen as a cool thing for the young people. So they have no resistance for wearing face masks. Not much as like Europeans, because wearing mask is kind of seems like criminal in Western culture, but in Korea and some parts of Asia, it's like a movie stars. And K-pop stars are wearing masks. So this is a kind of cultural difference. And assessment of the measures, I would like to talk about the Korean GDP only dropped at least 1% from 2019, which is the lowest in OECD. Because the kind of interesting thing is that Korea is very strong the country for semiconductor and experts in IT technology, and those are very high valued technology-based businesses were still making good revenue in pandemic. So those kind of helped to carry our economy. And the numbers stayed low throughout the pandemic, and the people highly complained with social distancing, especially wearing masks. And it was quite a balanced approach, never fully locked down, and minimize the economic crisis. So this is a street even in the nighttime. The stores are still open. People can still go and visit and buy things and eat, but they still have to wear the mask. And even the workplace, you have to wear a mask, but still business is running. But there is a sad part in Korea. Especially I would like to say there's a victim of its own success. Unlike the previous outbreak, COVID-19 is not ending. It's not something that only take a few months to finish. And unlike other OECD countries, South Korea was slow in procuring the vaccine. I have some argument on that. The late procurement resulted in falling behind the vaccinated population. Even Korea is capable to vaccinate 1 million population per day, because our local clinics are very cooperative. And if we have a vaccine, I'm sure that Korea could be the fastest vaccinated country. But now the daily new cases are increasing, and the new social distancing measures being put in place that go beyond the previous defined highest tier. The missing points, I would like to talk about the missing points. Lack of investment in R&D for vaccine. This is little question for me as well. But R&D part, you need a long wait. And the Europeans are very good at it, I think. And there is a very advanced technology already existing, and very large, brave investments, like in United States, made it possible for having on such as an RNA vaccine, which is amazing. And but Korea spent the less attention on investment for the vaccine. Maybe Korean government could have expected treatment, the made in Korea treatment. But vaccine is a little special. The vaccine really needed experience, and you need a long-term R&D. And if we could have collaborate with the European or American technology in very early stage and making it more capable for production in Korea, maybe we could have a better result. But since vaccines were a little bit undervalued in South Korea before, and the lack of purchasing vaccine in advance resulted current problem. And now the government is very into mRNA vaccine, but it is very hard to collaborate in very kind of very late stage, because most of the mRNA companies, the developers of mRNA companies are now in crazy to producing the massive orders that they have got, and this is not the time to talk about the technical transfer in very in rushing time. But as you can see, the Korea has got the vaccine received from the United States and doing a vaccine swap with Israel and kind of things, but still it's a challenge. And social and political consequences of COVID-19. As you can see, this is a Korean Air, inside the Korean Air, fully packed with a package and no passengers. But the thing is that those travel tourism businesses kind of collapsed, and there still is a collapse of service industry, and there's mass unemployment, and global trade was a positive impact. As I mentioned, the high-tech industries field growth, semiconductor test kits and others, and the PPEs were quite popular. Korean PPEs were quite popular. And service exports had double-digit decline. The service trade declined due to lack of travel tourism and transportation. As you can see, these restaurants are pretty empty, and people are preferring to go to the more safer place than before. And this is Incheon Airport, Korea's biggest airport. As you can see, it's pretty much empty. We have other like the BTS, like a Korean pop stars, are making making growth, and I would like to talk about that in the next slide. Social and political, still the social and political consequences of COVID-19. As you can see, this is the K-pop stars concert. As you can see, this is more like a Zoom concert. So your fans, the participants who purchased the ticket can see, their face can be seen in the concert, like this. This is a screen. And this is more like a virtual concert that never happened before, but K-pop artists turn to virtual concerts these days. And BTS twice reached the most watched virtual concert in 2020 and earned 45 billion in revenue for one concert. This is a big number. And the new industries were developed. And this is a good thing about South Korea. They are very good at quickly moving adopting the new ideas, and they love to develop it and catching it up. And those virtual tours, virtual IT-based industries keep growing, and the virtual reality industry are pretty much growing in South Korea. Well, I would like to describe South Korea as a nation that grew from the overcoming crisis. And as you can see, Korea had a Korean War, made South Korea is one of the poorest country in the world, and actually Germany was were very good friend who supported South Korea when Korea was very poor. And with the German aid, Korea was able to build its country. And then we have fought with the authoritarianism. As you can see, this is a democratic movement, a student movement in 70s and 80s. We really had a very harsh time. And also in 1998, all Asia was hit by the financial downturn. South Korea was one of the worst one, but with the gold collection movement of South Korea, really the general public have supported government. They are bringing their own gold and giving it to government to pay off its debt. It was a quite impressive moment. And Korea also had many man-made industrial disasters. This is one of the bridge in Han River was disconnected in the morning when students were going to school. And we had many the man-made industrial disasters. But through and also the public health emergencies, we've had many, including the MERS. but we were able to overcame those crises. So moving forward is what I would like to say for the conclusion. The crisis strengthened South Korea's capacity to overcome. COVID-19 is a stepstone for South Korean society, elevate itself on the world stage. And President Moon was invited to the G7 the meeting summit, and it was very honorable to be as invited, and they talked about COVID-19 containment of Korea, and that was Korean people were very proud of that, and shows capability to fight the pandemic battle. And the COVID-19 was a stepping stone for the improving preparedness for future health crises. The pandemic alerted South Korea to have vaccine sovereignty. As well, as I mentioned, the vaccine became an important issue in Korea, and I'm sure that before we have the next pandemic, Korea will be prepared. Secure the vaccine sovereignty. The COVID-19 may stay with us for a long time. It's not ending soon. Epidemic will continue to come back. It's only a beginning, and pathogen will travel faster. And new innovative technology is available, like mRNA, other RNA, the vaccines are available. So these will make us to be more stronger to combat the next infectious disease crisis. Okay, this is the end of my presentation. It was a great honor for me to have a chance, and I thank to Untitled Chapter for letting me have an opportunity to talk about Korea's case, and hope this presentation is helpful for everyone to understand a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elle, for these insights in the, I think we can all say, pretty successful test, trace, and treat strategy, but also into some shortcomings that there were in South Korea. I think the most impressive thing, especially speaking from the European perspective, is that South Korea managed to avoid a lockdown with very innovative testing and tracing, and also, of course, with the people's willing cooperation. So with that, I want to open the floor to questions. We still have 12 minutes at least, so we can still answer some questions. Let me start with politics. So times of crisis quite often benefit the incumbent government. Was this the case in South Korea? Did the pandemic have an influence on politics?
Well, actually, people talk about the COVID-19 is very political disease, because it allowed government to control its people. And if there is a protest, it's easy for government to have a good excuse to avoid people get together and can sneak up from the blame. Of course, it's happening in South Korea, I would say, because the mass gathering is also a very blamable thing still. The people are afraid to get together. And of course, every government has supporters and not supportive group. And those unsupportive groups get together, they can make trouble. But of course, the politicians are having a benefit out of pandemic. That's actually, I definitely have to say, I have to agree with that. This happening in South Korea as well. But I wouldn't say that which case is for that, then I wouldn't go detail for that, because I do not want to have too much trouble.
Are conspiracy theories a thing in South Korea? Do you have to deal with that?
Pardon?
Are conspiracy theories a thing in South Korea?
Of course, yes. Conspiracy theories are popular in everywhere. Like Bill Gates is spreading this disease to limiting the number of population kind of thing. Of course, people are believing these theories, of course, but government, the reaction of government was quite important. I think you bringing the facts to the general public in early stage, then it will make people to fear less. And they would like to, of course, the people are not all rational. So, and if you're not so sure about the science, and you get scared, like there are so many rumors about the vaccine, like AstraZeneca vaccine is not a good vaccine, and it will make you die, and kind of many, like there was a big people are avoiding taking AstraZeneca vaccine. It happened, which is fine vaccine. Getting vaccine is better than it will not let you go to the emergency room. This is the point. Having vaccine will not gonna let you go to the emergency room. But without vaccine, if you have COVID-19, especially variants, it's much faster and much brutal. It really can make your case very serious. But if you have no trust on vaccine, it's very scary, because some people have anaphylaxis, like their body they can't move their body, and those things are on the news, and people die, then kind of making people scared of having vaccine. But there is a benefit is higher than not taking vaccine. So that's enough reason to take the vaccine. So, but there is lots of rumors about the Bill Gates population limitation things, and the vaccine rumors were everywhere. Yes. I think.
Okay, we have also some questions from the audience now, so I'm just going to read one out. That is, South Korea has implemented the level 4 measurements with a semi-lockdown, but the numbers are not decreasing. Why is South Korea not taking drastic measures, such as a hard lockdown for 2 weeks? Wouldn't that be more effective for decreasing the infections?
I agree, actually. I agree on that. It would be much helpful for doing a complete lockdown for 2 weeks. And of course, the number will go down dramatically. But it is very hard for Korean government to support those individual private the service businesses with the tax money. So if you force the people to sacrifice to close down their business for 2 weeks, I think it will be another big argument and big debate, unending debate will come up. There are people who support and not supporting that. But as a person who worked in the public, the health, the world, I agree with the 2 weeks complete lockdown will make this number dramatically go down. I agree with it.
Yeah, and we also have a question concerning the beginning of the pandemic. That is, what was the key to an effective containment of COVID-19 early on? Preparedness after SARS-MERS pandemics before, or trust in government and technology?
Well, the SARS, really, we have no case. South Korea had no case on SARS. But MERS is not, MERS was quite, I was really questioned about. Why MERS in South Korea? It kind of makes nonsense to me, because that MERS epidemic in South Korea was the biggest MERS outbreak outside of Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's kind of very, can't understand thing. The thing was that South Korea was pretty weak and vulnerable on any kind of foreign respiratory infectious disease. It kind of shows the fact that we were very vulnerable at that time. But through that, the diagnostic company, Korea is quite impressive thing for South Korea is they're very technology driven. They once they adopt some technology, they're very good at improving it. And those diagnostic companies are making those devices very quickly. So when COVID-19 hit South Korea, less than a month, we already have devices fully equipped. So that kind of made a big difference. If you test And if you can determine who has the disease and not has the disease, it's very easy to isolate. And isolation is the one of the key for controlling the infectious disease, I think.
Mm. So do you think certain measures taken in South Korea could also be applied in Germany, considering the cultural differences between the two countries?
Oh, well. Well, as I mentioned earlier, actually the South Korea, the people are a little bit more obedient to the authority. The reason is South Korea went through the harsh war. Like 1950, we had a Korean War, and then we were under the dictatorship for quite a long time. So people are more used to submitting on the government authority, and of course, we made it. Those democratic movement in 70s, 80s made the big, huge difference than before. But still, when we have a crisis, people get together and supporting government. That's more like a Korean thing. So let's rebellious then, because the MERS really made the Korean think differently. Because MERS really scared everybody, because your child can die too. So it was a big the event that kind of change the Korean people's behavior toward their government. If you don't follow the government instruction, your child can die. That was the kind of the attitude that Korean people had. And I think that MERS epidemic really made people to wear the mask, and no question. They just wear the mask because they knew that it's much better to wearing mask and protect yourself.
Yeah, that is certainly a very serious wake-up call that Europe hadn't had. We have some questions about vaccinations. So why does South Korea struggle to secure the vaccinations, and why can't it turn to the US for the procurement of vaccinations?
Oh, can you show me that?
It's in the chat.
In the chat, okay.
Yes.
Right, sorry, let me get the chat.
Why does South Korea struggle to secure vaccinations?
Yes, vaccination is an issue. Seems like before, like until last summer, like a year ago, when Japan and Singapore successfully purchasing the vaccine from Moderna, Pfizer, Korea never started the negotiation, because Korea had money, but they kind of thought of this outbreak will be eased soon, before the vaccination is rolling. Maybe they kind of expected the COVID-19 will be gone sooner, and then they expected. But the thing is, COVID-19 is a little bit different than MERS and other outbreaks. Because none of these outbreaks that Korea experienced last this long, and none of our, like maybe in human history too, this is the longest pandemic that we suffered maybe, and the variant is keep the evolution of variant is really the big killer for COVID-19 the situation. It's but Korean government probably expected to have a made in Korea vaccine they kind of underestimate the new technology, and vaccine development. It's not something that can be done in a few months. But the RNA vaccine is quite an amazing. But still, the RNA vaccine was the technology that was already discussed in 20 years in Europe and in America. But for talking about the vaccine, you really have to invest. Otherwise, it's impossible to have your own vaccine. So that was a kind of Korea expected their own technology to solve their own problem, but it didn't work as they expected, maybe.
Yeah, so I think we all certainly hope that South Korea will quickly develop the capacity to produce their own vaccine. I think that would not only help South Korea, but also everybody else.
I hope South Korea to co-work with Germany to develop the vaccine. That would be a win-win situation. That's what I think. Korea can do the production well and commercialization, but Germany can do on RNA better, maybe.
Yeah, that would certainly be a win-win for both countries. Looking at the time, we are unfortunately already reaching the end of today's seminar. So Ms. Lee's article will be available for download shortly, and please also sign up for our next seminar at the 15th of September. And please, everybody in the audience, feel free to stay in touch via our email address, which is asia@hss.de. And via this email address, you can also sign up to all of our newsletters, the newsletter in the South and Southeast Asia division, as well as the newsletter from the Northeast and Central Asia division, asia@hss.de. And with that, I would like to thank you, Al, for your fantastic input today. I would like to thank my organization team behind the scenes. And last but not least, of course, everybody in the audience, all of you who signed up today. Thank you very much. And when you sign out, you will see a very short survey. So please fill it in and help us improve our future seminars.